So we got a 6 liter that we're doing oil cooler, STC fittings, standpipes, that kind of stuff too. And I guess for just um, I found this to be useful, and obviously this is why we did this. But this is a injector pinout for the injector wiring harness on a 6 liter, and so like the PCM connector and the FICM would be here, front connector, rear connector, and then this is the little D fuck. What's the word for that? Legend or whatever for how we're doing this. So this would be the injector with a slit on the injector at the bottom, lower coil, upper coil. And so if you wanted to ohm out injector 3, it would be front connector pin 20, front connector 8, and front connector 4, front connector 19, and such. Um, and yeah, so that way you can pin out the injectors from only the FICM, because it just obviously takes time to pull the wiring harness out and actually be able to access all the injectors. But we just pulled the high pressure oil pump out of it, and we've seen something very interesting that we have not seen before. So here's the high pressure oil pump out of a 2005 to 2007 6 liter, and it's got what's known as the STC fitting. It's basically like the high pressure oil fittings on a 7.3, or like an air coupler if you want to call it that. This is the output of the high pressure oil pump, and then on this bottom side a hole that feeds out to the branch tubes on the back of the engine. These were known for blowing apart, and like I was saying, it's like a pressure washer coupler, air coupler, whatever you want to call STC, snap to connect. They would just blow apart, and sometimes with enough force that it would actually crack the rear cover on the engine. We have actually never seen a failed high pressure pump. It's typically always, not typically, it's always just a leak somewhere else.
That we've seen. We have seen the start of a 0304 pump failing, but like being metal in the oil and like longer crank, weaker crank, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, it was getting weak.
But that was just as best as we could tell, like a 03 to 04 pump starting to fail, and they are different, and there's things that change and everything.
And the 03 to 4 had a much more problematic pump than the 5 to 7.
Right, and like not saying these high pressure oil pumps like never fail, doesn't happen, but like we have never had a 6 liter with high pressure oil issues, or anyone suspecting high pressure oil pump, or being told by talking to their friends or other shops or something, and actually like got into it, diagnosed it, and then pulled the pump, and like it's not been filled. We've just not come across that.
Right, and what's really unfortunate is that a lot of people think that the 6 liter is like the 7.3, and of course there's lots of similarities, but there's also lots of differences. A failed high pressure oil pump on a 7.3 was a vastly more common thing than a 6 liter. But because people assume that the two engines are identical, they'll have some sort of drivability problem with the 6 liter. They'll just be like, fuck it, just put a high pressure oil pump in it. It's like, no, that's probably not the issue.
Well, and there's so much to the high pressure oil system on these trucks, be it the 0304s, which are slightly different, and the 05 to 07s. Like, there's so much to the oil system, and there's just different O-rings, and like we've seen so many failed oil filters and so much debris in the oil and blown out oil cooler screens and this and that and the other, and still not seen a failed high pressure oil pump. They will put up with a lot, the later ones that we've seen.
Mm-hmm. And we've replaced a couple out of an abundance of caution, if you want to call it that, or just like
brand new engine kind of thing, like
brand new engine, converting it from the 03 to 4 to the 5 to 7, yeah. All that kind of stuff. But so yeah, this was the snap to connect fitting. This is what they came out with from the factory, 2005, 2006, 2007.
I don't know if that was strictly for assembly purposes, or they thought that was good enough. I'm not sure what was the reasoning, but
I mean, probably assembly, but
yeah.
Nowadays the fix for it is this. It's just a solid chunk of steel. Like, this bit of steel is the same as the end here, and then there's just a nut to be able to tighten down the O-ring. And so you just simply replace this guy here, and then of course, because this is a solid chunk of steel and doesn't have, see if I can, doesn't have a connection here, you know, you essentially alleviate all those issues. This one, when we took it apart, it had this gizmo on it. And so what this does is it drops down in between the gear, which is kind of sketchy because that's really close to the gear. But it has one bolt there, one bolt on the other side of the high pressure oil pump, and then you bolt down the STC fitting to the branch tubes on the back side here. And this is, you know, reasonably thick steel. This is maybe quarter. Not entirely sure how thick that is. At first, we thought this was something aftermarket, but this looks like a factory part. It looks like the quality and shit that you would expect from a factory part, and yet I've never seen this before. So I don't know, was this a early attempt to deal with the STC fitting issues on the 5 to 7 pickups? Because I've only ever seen this before. This is completely and totally new to me.
And this is a December of 04 truck. It's a very early 05.
Well, here, say that again.
It's a December of 04 truck, and so it's a very early 05.
Right, so potentially this had like a crib death, you know, when it was brand new under warranty, and this was the best thing that they had to come up with at the time.
Yeah, maybe they put a new STC fitting in it. It does look like maybe someone's been in there before, or maybe they started doing that on the assembly line. I don't know. But
well, but if they did, you would expect the later ones to have it.
Well, yeah, because they obviously never had that solid fitting
Right.
until after production. So, yeah,
Right.
I guess that, yeah.
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 So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so, somebody's definitely been into it before.
I would be curious, because they have this, I would imagine, I would hope, that these bolts have to be longer than the ones
Yeah.
without this, or it's just utilizing less thread, which of course would be sketchy, but...
Well, yeah. Well, so the STC kit comes with new bolts and shit, so let's check.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's funny about this, the new STC kit, well, it's obviously not a snap to connect fitting anymore, but it comes with this little plastic piece of shit that the idea is that when you put the new fitting on here, that you can use this to set the clocking of the fitting. It's funny, but also annoying that they give you these bullshit plastic bolts. And I mean, okay, they're actually like pretty good quality
But this
for
is
plastic.
like toilet seat hardware, where they have you...
I know. I know.
Mm-hmm.
But they are like made nice. There's not a bunch of flashing and shit on it. But the idea is that you run those through there and you use this for alignment, but then you don't install it. What we do is we just run this in and leave the jam nut loose until we've torqued down the pump and the fitting. But so the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is what we had taken out of the pickup. Mm-hmm. These two here are the replacement bolts that come in the kit, and these three here are replacement bolts that come in the kit. And I guess should mention that we're using a factory, we're using factory parts. It's not aftermarket crap. But considering that, you know, like you can see these here are the same length, but then these two are longer, this is indicative of this here being a factory part. Yeah. And just the quality of manufacturing
because, like,
on that.
These are not aftermarket bolts, like...
Right, yeah.
And our alignment piece, you know, I mean, not that the aftermarket wouldn't have it be similar, but...
Yeah, that's the same shaping, that's the same... Fuck, that almost looks like they use the same mold.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this one would be cast plastic and that'd be like stamped sheet metal, but...
Right.
That really does look like exactly the same fucking design.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. If anybody's got more insight on this, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we've never come across it in our workings on 6 liters, and I've not come across it on, say, forums or other people post about working on 6 liters where they have the high pressure oil pump cover off and like I've noticed that piece or seen that piece. So yeah, this
Yeah.
is a first for us. We've definitely seen some like almost like split year interesting stuff, or
Weird
like
aftermarket parts.
or 0304 trucks that had early issues, and they actually like converted them to the 05 to 07 oil system and actually didn't even tell the customer. It went in for warranty repair, and they like,
And we should mention that those cases, the customer owned the pickup since brand
yeah,
new.
since brand new, yeah.
So it's not like it was just, lost in,
Yeah.
selling the pickup or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, people that bought the pickup brand new, they completely converted the fucking engine and didn't say a fucking word
Yeah,
to the
they,
customer.
oh, I took my truck in for like a bed plate leak at, 30,000 miles or something, and then they went and did this.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's
And-
the only time it's been worked on in the last, 10 years or something or whatever. It's just nuts.
Uh-huh. And then also we've seen it to where they'll have an 03 to 4 pump, but 5 to 7 oil rails,
Yeah.
and 03 to 4 rails with a 5 to 7 pump.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's first for everything, but this is definitely a first.
Mm-hmm. Yep, sure is. So we just noticed here the STC fitting on this pump actually says Eaton on it, and that's their like little logo on the fitting there. Yeah. Kind of interesting.